Thanks everyone for joining me today. My name's Ginny from Career Cruising, and I know that Liz has really been central in organizing this session for us today. And the purpose, really, why we're all here together is to really get a sneak peek and to take a look at some of the things that we've been working on here at Career Cruising, specifically a new product that we have spent probably the last couple years working on in a very focused way, and really to kind of talk about the future of that product, how it's being rolled out, and really what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we'll get started. So you're probably all looking at a screen right now that does not say Career Cruising and thinking, what is this? So what we're looking at right now is Xello. And Xello is the name of the product that we've been working on here at Career Cruising over the past couple years, and something that we're getting ready to launch probably come this summer and into the beginning of the next school year. What's really exciting is you are probably the first group, I would say in Michigan, definitely in your region, to see this. So you're definitely getting the sneak peek and kind of first to the punch at looking at this new product and looking at Xello. So what we're going to do today is really talk a little bit about why we thought that it was time to create something new within Career Cruising, really dive into the reasons behind Xello, what our mind frame was, and then hop into the program live so that you can take a look at the program in more detail and really how it differs from what you're using now within Career Cruising. One thing I would like to just sort of preface a little bit before we hop in a little bit more detail is really just to clarify that Career Cruising as you know it now and what you're using with your students, whether that's our base program of Springboard or whether using our full offering with the course planner and the college application tools, none of that is going anywhere. So that is still staying active. You're still more than welcome to continue using that with your students. We will be running both products side by side. So for districts and sites that would like to make this transition to Xello, whether it's something more immediate or in the future, you're always very welcome and encouraged to do that. But by no means are you going to be losing out on what's being offered within your existing Career Cruising. So when we look at a new product, I guess the first thing we want to ask ourselves is why? Why a new product? Why sort of stray away from what we've been doing within Career Cruising as you know it for probably about the past 20 years now? And there's really a number of reasons why we thought it was time to really branch out and create something new to have an impact both for students as well as educators. The first thing is really the way that students interact with technology has changed significantly, especially within the past few years. And the user experience has been really key in that. Students interact with technology, like I said, much differently, and that continues to change and progress year after year. And today, popular software really puts a significant focus on that user experience. If you look at all the software programs your students are using in their day-to-day lives, their social media, their apps, they all have a very modern look and feel that really puts the user at the center. And we figured, why should an educational software be any different than that? The second is that the idea of readiness and how that really impacts a student is also becoming increasingly important, especially in a generation where students are tending to graduate with expectations of their future that are sometimes really misaligned with reality. Students having a plan is important, and they are able to do that within Career Cruising, and that's really what we've been focused on providing. But we're wanting to take it a step further now where students are not only just having that plan, but really understanding the why behind it, why they're creating that plan, why it's significant, and really driving the engagement so that they are more actively involved in that plan. And when students understand the why, we find it really helps to drive adoption and engagement and ultimately helps districts and schools and educators meet their goals as well. And again, Xello itself is a completely new, built-from-scratch program, as you'll see when we go into the program live in just a few minutes, built really from the ground up It wasn't an instance where we took what was existing in career cruising and sort of made some tweaks and changes to it. We really started with a blank slate. We wanted to really simplify and strengthen the experience that students had when they logged in through something that was immersive and student-centered, and one that's really in a way that information was presented in a more personalized and contextualized way. We tested this program with many, many students before we had it go live, really to make sure that we're making it as engaging as possible. What we're going to be looking at today is for our students grades 6 through 12. So we will continue to have elementary content available similar as we do now, but Xello would be focused for your middle and your high school students. And one of the other big sort of new changes as well is it will be available on any device. So I know a lot of people have been asking about accessing programs for students on iPhones or Google phones or on different tablets and devices, and Xello will be available on all of those. So I thought we'd take a quick moment to talk about the name. What's in a name, how did we come up with it, and really what's behind the name Xello. Well, for starters, it's a brand new product, so we figured it needed a brand new name. And we'd really realized that over the years, we've kind of outgrown the name career cruising. It was a little bit limited in scope. The word career, of course, really only covers one pillar of what we do. We are really focused on future readiness, a real holistic approach, and we thought that career cruising only captured one sort of facet of that. We also wanted a name that was global, that sounded positive and happy and forward-thinking, and that could be used by anyone around the world, no matter what language they speak. An interesting thing that we learned when we were doing our research as well is that when coders really start writing a new code, the first line that they type into all their programs is "Hello World." And from that, we thought that that was really pertinent to what we do, that Xello really looks and sounds like hello. And that's kind of what we wanted to portray for our students, give them an opportunity to kind of say, hello world, here I am, this is my plan, this is what I'm doing. So pronounced kind of like a Z, so if you were reading it, it would look like Xello, but spelled with an X. So when we look at the framework of really how we have approached career cruising and how we wanted to continue to transition some of those values into a new product, we really wanted to continue to build off the pillars that we've sort of built career cruising on as well. And those are sort of 4 big components, starting with self-awareness, moving into exploration and planning, and then ultimately creating a plan and making that plan real. So establishing what your goals are as a student and what you need to do to make that happen. We've continued to use that framework in our new product, but we have given students the opportunity to really dive in deeper and to go from something that was more of a box-ticking process for students to something that was a lot more engaging and reflective. Portfolios as well are still very easily shareable with counselors and parents, and we'll continue to have educator portals, which we'll take a look at today as well, along with parent portals. One thing I do want to talk about briefly as well, just because this particular part of the program is not completely ready live yet. So we'll start by talking about this so that you can see some of the screenshots that we have here before we hop in live. One of the ways that we've really started to dive deeper into some of these processes within Xello is to really build in interactive lessons into the program itself. Some of the feedback that we had got from the clients and districts that we work with over the years was that they were using career cruising to log in maybe 1, 2, 3 times a year, complete tasks that were associated with their state mandates, so have students complete their EDP, and that was it. Kind of move on, and they weren't really looking at it too much more. That's really what we wanted to get away from and move into a place where we were allowing students to have something that was more self-directed, that they actually want to log into, and we make it easy for them to not only get into Xello, but also to continue to explore and build their portfolio over time and really be able to reflect back and make sure that everything they're doing is actually relevant to them. One of the ways that we've done that is through these interactive lessons. So we are continuing to build out lessons that are going to be embedded into the student's portfolio, and you can really customize which lessons you would like to have appear in which grades. We, of course, will have suggestions for that and sort of a workflow and scope and sequence of how students would experience these lessons, but they're very customizable. For this coming September, we're planning on having our first 14 lessons ready. So that's about 2 per grade. And ultimately, as time goes by, I think we're working ourselves up to about 45 lessons in total. So there'll be a lot of curriculum support that students can do within Xello as well. So what I'm going to do right now is actually just drag over my screen so that we can hop into the program. What you're seeing now is the login page. So again, looks completely different from what your students are seeing now. And before we do hop in, I just want to talk a little bit about data integration with your student information system and some of the work that we've been doing on that end to really make sure that this program is seamless as well. There are some in the group today who may be using our sort of full solution program right now within the existing career cruising and may be data integrated, but I know that there are others who are not. So we'll kind of just talk about what that means. For all of our districts who are going to be using Xello and who ultimately would like to make the decision to transition into this new product, we will be data integrating all districts. And what that means is that we can set up Xello to speak with your student information system. And what's really nice in Michigan specifically is that we are what we call EdFi certified, so that we can actually access a state-centric EdFi database to pull that information, so it doesn't require a lot of work from local counselors and IT leads to help us get that set up. So very, very easy on the district end. And we can do things like create synchronized usernames and passwords for your students so that you're not having to manually create those accounts and manage those throughout the year. With many student information systems, we have nightly integration possibilities so that any changes, any students that are coming to your school or your district or leaving, graduating grade through grade, all of that is reflected on a daily basis within the program. So there's no manual work having to be done as there often is now. We also have the ability to do what we call single sign-on. So if your students or if your school is a Google school or if your students are using any other learning management system, I know many are using what a program is called Schoology, and there's a number of others. We can do single sign-on with Xello so that when your students log in through their district-driven Gmail account or Schoology or PowerSchool, they're automatically logged into career cruising as well. So it just makes it that much easier. I should say, my apologies, automatically logged into Xello as well. So it just makes it that much easier for them to get into the program, not having to hassle with usernames, passwords, logging into another screen. They're just there. And again, that's also going to encourage them to be in the program more often and making it more engaging and relevant for them. You'll notice as well we've got a student login as well as an educator login on the same page. Many of you who are watching and joining us today are probably very familiar with what we call now CAMS, or what is our educator portal, where you can go in and track student activity and run reports. We've completely redesigned that as well to be much more user-friendly for counselors, educators, and administrators. And we'll take a look at that at the end of the session as well today. But we'll start logging in on the student side. So I've already defaulted my username and password. And our internet's been working a little bit slow today, so I apologize if it takes a second. Here we go. So this is the login page for Xello. So right away, you're going to notice it looks, sort of the look and feel of it is completely different from what you're used to within your traditional career cruising accounts. And one of the main differences here is that within career cruising, there was a lot of clicking that kind of needed to happen for students to get to different pages and to different functions. What we've tried to do with Xello is to make it as intuitive as possible so that students could come in with very minimal direction and really intuitively understand how to kind of make their way through the program and how to get to certain places. So in simplifying it, we've brought everything down to 3 main pillars. And this encompasses a student's portfolio or a student's EDP. And again, all printable and shareable via a link for counselors and parents as well. So the 3 main pillars that students are going to start to go through, starting with About Me, moving into Explore Options, and then ultimately ending up in Goals and Plans. The About Me section, we'll start there first. This is really where students are going to begin their journey with that self-awareness piece. So starting to have access to assessments, some of those being the same as they do now within career cruising. So we continue to have the career matchmaker assessment that students can complete, as well as the learning styles. And we've incorporated a personality style assessment, which is derived from the Holland Code as well. So giving students the ability, again, to go in, do those assessments, have those results saved. As you'll see in this particular case, I've gone through in this demo account and they're completed. So I can see the results from my personality assessment. I can view those results in more detail. And I can do the exact same thing for my learning styles as well. I'm also having some of my main career matches show up based on the career matchmaker assessment that I've taken. And the content of that assessment is the same as what you know now. So those same questions and sequences are still there, all just been redesigned. I can also start to input more information about me, such as my education goal. And I can go in and edit this at any time. I can start to identify some of my favorite clusters, and very, very easy to sort of pick and choose and change those. Anything that a student clicks to change, they don't actively have to save. It will automatically update. So if I just click Done out of that page, all of my changes will be reflected there. Giving students an opportunity to start to document experiences that they have had in a number of different areas. So starting to be able to enter any work that I've done, volunteer experience, as well as education or different life experiences, and have them start to show up on a continuum here. It's almost a different format of a resume. And again, very easy to add an experience. So if I want to add some of the summer volunteer work I've done, I can go ahead, input all of this information, and have that show up the same way as this example that I've just included here, my summer camp that maybe I did last year. And again, everything the student is doing within Xello is not so much just completing the task and move on, but always being prompted to take it a step further and really do some more self-reflection on everything that they're including. So not only am I putting in that I went to summer camp last year or that I volunteered with a certain organization or did some work, but then I can also go in and say, what did I like? What did I find challenging? What is it that I learned? And start to document some of those thoughts as well. Coming down, students also have the ability to identify some of their skills that they have and interests. So coming in, I can look at perhaps leadership skills and identify anything that may apply to me and start to have that update as well. And then I can rank how good I am at these particular things. Again, I can do the same thing for interests, and then can start to document some of my family history, where I live, if I've lived other places across the world as well. Right on the bottom of this page, and you'll see this come up throughout a student's portfolio, is what we call Storyboard. And this is really a place that gives students the opportunity to start to add things that are reflective of themselves from other places. So students can start to upload files from Dropbox, from their Google Drive, something they have saved to computer or Facebook, as well as save things like articles or videos that are either related to them or some of the plans that they're making. So maybe it's related to a particular career program or college that's of interest to them. So this is really somewhere that they're going to start to archive videos, links, documents that they can start to build and save over time. We'll take a moment and go into our career profiles. You can take a look at what these look like. And you'll notice here, and I do apologize for this, our demo account that we're using today is actually defaulted to a Canadian account. Our American accounts are just in the final process of getting finalized and ready to go live. So a lot of the content and layout will look the same, but you'll see little details in here that are Canadian versus something that would be Michigan specific. But all of that will be updated shortly. So coming in, we've got a lot of the same information in the career profiles, but we've really rejigged it in a way that is more student-friendly to review and to understand. We've rewritten all of the content on Xello to be at a grade 5 to 6 reading level, so very accessible for students of all different levels who are using the program. Within Career Cruising now, to give you just a bit of a comparison, our content is written at about a grade 7 reading level, so we've brought that down a couple years. So students being able to get a full job description, interviews are still embedded in here. One thing we have added is the demand. So having students understand if a career that they're looking at is in high demand or if it's a declining demand or something that's stagnant. Again, you're going to see this edition of whether this career or what personality styles this particular career is well suited to, as well as lining up my particular personality style so I can see if that's a good fit based on those assessment results. And then a lot of the same information that we would have within Career Cruising, but all sort of consolidated on one page versus having students click through a number of different headings. And again, you'll always see the storyboard pop up on the bottom. So students can go into each career and they can find out why, again, this career was matched for them, so they can start to get a really good understanding, like they are in the Career Matchmaker assessment now, of how they answered their assessment results and how that lines up to this career either being matched or not matched for them. From this same page, it's very easy for a student to go through and change their answers. One of the big differences in the career assessment here in Xello is that it doesn't give the students opportunities to save multiple versions of an assessment. They're really only having one assessment that they work off of. And rather than saving those multiple versions, they can come in as they get older and progress through middle and high school and change results and review those and see how that may update their career matches. Another thing that students are going to be prompted to do, and I'm just going to go back to a career portfolio that I have not yet saved so that we can see what this looks like, is asking students to reflect on the things that they are saving within their portfolio. So for example, if I'm looking at a new career portfolio, which I had not yet saved as part of my EDP, when I go to save this to say, yes, this is a career of interest for me, it's going to ask me to do a few additional things versus just having that automatically stored. How do I feel about this career? So I can say, maybe it's a possibility. I don't love it, but it's all right. And then it's going to prompt me to do a number of other things. Start to add some of the things that I like about this potential career plan. What are some of the things that I dislike? What are some important factors that I want to consider when I'm starting to think about whether this is a good path for me? And I can start to rank some of these. It's also going to give me the opportunity to start to add related videos or articles to this career. So in this case, it's going to ask me, find 3 related articles to being a retail buyer and save that as part of your portfolio. So there's a number of different ways here that students are actually going to be reflecting on the decisions they're making and the things that they're deciding to add into their portfolio versus just doing it in an arbitrary way to really check off those boxes. We'll hop into the sort of second pillar here, which is exploring options. This is where students are going to naturally progress to once they have completed those assessments, really started to identify some of their skills and interests and got a better understanding of who they are. They're going to have the opportunity to come in and explore in a number of different ways, whether it's based on careers, schools, or different programs. Again, all of the schools that will pop up for your students will be American and Michigan specific. And the programs here, I do like to explain how this works. When a student logs in, if they have not completed any of the assessments or anything in About Me, this will come up a little bit more blank. And as a student starts to complete more about themselves, complete assessment results, identify their skills and interests, this is going to get populated with programs that are suggested for them based on the things that they've identified. So it's going to be very relevant for their interest and for their pathway. Students have the opportunity to go in and explore any of these pillars in a little bit more detail, and they can start to set filters. So if I want to look at specific keywords, I could say it wants to be Michigan specific or maybe out of state. I could identify the level of education I want to pursue, and I can start to drill down on programs that way. I can also do the same thing with schools as well as careers. One thing I will just drag on the screen for you to show you, I do have a screenshot of an American college. I've been able to pull up, give me one quick second here, a University of Michigan. Oh, but it seems to have closed on me. I will try and pull that up for you at the very end so that I can show you what the University of Michigan college profile looks like, as of course it will be a little bit different in the content than we have on these Canadian profiles. But as you can see, we've redone all the photography, so really great images that are associated with all of the college profiles, both Canadian and American, and just more of a streamlined look for students to get all of the necessary information that they're going to need in these profiles. Now, in the, for example, in the University of Michigan or any other American colleges that students are looking at, also in the college profiles will be embedded SAT and ACT scores where we can upload that from your student information system so students can have that embedded as part of their portfolio to start to understand their chances of admissions, as well as looking at things like scattergrams to really understand which colleges are going to be a good fit for them. Now, if I hop us into the goals and plans side of things, this third pillar is where students are really going to have the opportunity to take everything that they've accumulated based on that self-awareness of themselves and some of those options that they have researched and really start to build out a plan. And this is going to be done in a number of different ways. Again, I know there are, I believe it's 1 or 2 districts within the county that are using our existing course planner, and I know that many of you are not, but we will continue to have a course planner available within Xello. And what that does, for those of you that aren't aware, is it allows students to, through an in-depth integration with your student information system, actually build out their 4-year plan within Xello and have that saved in relation to their EDP and some of their post-secondary plans. Students can have full access to all of the course offerings that are available within their school or their district, as well as any alternate pathways to graduation, whether those are CTE pathways, advanced placement, honor path, and they can really start to understand what credits they will need to graduate and really ensure that they have all the right credits in the right places built out into their 4-year plan. If you'd like to take the course planning piece a step further, we can also have this set up so that it's used not only as a planning mechanism, but for students to actually make their final course selections and have those selections completed with checks and balances built into the program, so that if students are choosing a course for which they don't have a proper prerequisite or they're not eligible to take, it will flag that and ask students to go through and make those corrections. And then we can actually export those final course requests and have them uploaded back into your student information system so that that's not something that has to be done manually by counselors. So it can be a very big time saver for administration to have something like this in place as well. And now the course planner is something that we are still finalizing some final little bits on and should be available by the fall, so by the beginning of next school year. So not something I can demo in too much detail right now, but is something that we can always do a follow-up session on if the interest arises. The other thing that students are going to be able to do is start to build out their plan or different versions of their plan. And what that means is it's going to allow students to start to connect some of those options that they've saved before when they were in their Explore Options tab. So now is really the time when they're going to start to bring together everything that they've saved and start to understand how they make that real and how they really put that together into a plan that they can follow through with. What's really nice is it's going to allow students to start from a number of different perspectives. So perhaps I know what my career is, and I want that to be my starting point where I start to then look for different options and build out my plan to decide what school and program I go to. Maybe I don't know what career I want, but I know a program, a post-secondary program that interests me. I could start from that pillar and then start to fill in my career and school options. Or perhaps I really know that I just want to go to a particular college and I want to use that as my building block to really expand. So it allows students to come at things from a number of different ways. And students can start to save a plan under anything that they'd like. And they can start to add things in. And now again, this portal is still being worked on as well. Since it is a sneak peek today and you guys are really the first to see everything, our development team is still going in and completing some of these pages and really putting the finishing touches on things. But it will give you a really good general understanding of how the plans work. And students will then be able to go in and from the marketing specialist start to pull in some of the programs that they may want to study, some of the school options that are there for them, and really build out their full plan. Students can save multiple versions and multiple plans. So I could have my career plan, in this case, to be a post-secondary administrator. Maybe I have a second career plan to be a marketing specialist. And maybe I have a third plan to go to University of Michigan without really knowing what my final career is going to be yet, but maybe I've got some program options built out for me. So this starts to give students a number of different ways that they can see themselves being successful in the future and a number of different paths that they can follow. And of course, this can all be tracked through our educators portal, which is our sort of updated CAMs, and can also be shared with parents and anyone else. From here, I think it may be a good time to hop into our educators portal, since we had just brought that up. I'm just going to drag that across to this screen as well, so we can kind of hover between the two windows. So going back to our login page, we were just on the student side. If I hover over onto the educator login, I've got a separate login here. And these will be provided to any educators or administrators within the districts or schools who will be using career cruising. And as you'll be able to see, for those of you who are familiar with our CAMs within the existing career cruising, we have completely rebuilt and redesigned the educator portal within Xello to be, again, much more user-friendly, much more intuitive, and much more engaging, and just really simpler to use. One of the big changes we've made as well on the educator portal is that we've organized for each administrative login, so regardless of whether that's a counselor or a district lead, to have their own demo account. So from the main page of an educator portal, it's very easy to switch into a student view. You can decide which grade you want to view as. And I can view as a student, and it will actually take me right back into the student view that we were just spending the last few minutes looking at. And I can start to see what my students would see. This is really nice if you're going to be sharing instructions in a classroom or with a group of students and you really need to demo something for them. Very simple to lead that and to really show students what it is that they need to be doing. Also nice if you just want to be going in on your own time and really getting a better understanding of what's in the program and how your students are experiencing it. You'll always have access to those demo accounts. From the side here, there's a number of things that administrators can do. Our aim here was really to simplify. While the existing CAMS has a lot of valuable information, some really great reports that you can run, there was quite a lot of content in there and not always the simplest to find exactly what you're looking for. So here we've really tried to simplify into some basic headings. So from your main dashboard, you can see all of your students that you're responsible for, your student logins and how that's all changing day to day. You can go in and look specifically at your students, all the students that you may be responsible for. What's new within this educator portal within Xello is you can start to create groups of particular students, and that's very, very easy to do. So if I wanted to add maybe these 4 students to a particular group that I've created, I can select that group and add those students to that. So maybe you've got a group of students that are interested in STEM, or maybe you've got your students divided out by grade or by last name. You can really start to build and customize those groups and move students around so that you can manage your students a lot easier. So here I can see all of the groups that I have, and I can create, delete, change my groups, really manage those. As well, we have the ability to upload and share assignments with students within Xello. So here I can manage all the assignments that I have for my students. And when they're logging in under the student view, it's going to be very easy for them to see the assignments that I've shared with them. I can manage educators. So again, this would be more for district contacts or countywide contacts. If you're managing a number of different educators, either within your school or your district or right across the county, you can do that as well. And then we've got a whole section related specifically to our course planner. So if your students are building out their 4-year plans and making course selections, there are a number of customized reports here so that you can really track all those metrics and really understand how many of my students have completed their 4-year plans? What are the different pathways that my students are saving? What are the courses that are most popular versus the courses that aren't? You can really have a detailed insight into some of those metrics as well. And then again, a list of a number of different reports based again on the same sort of pillars that students are experiencing with the program. You can go in and start to see what your students are saving. So what are the most popular careers? What are some of the most popular clusters that my students are saving? What kind of personality styles do my students have? What are their learning styles? What kinds of skills and interests are they saving? So very easy to access those reports. And same thing if we go into the Explore Options side. What are the schools and the programs that are being saved into my students' EDPs, and what do their goals and plans look like? Again, this screen is still being built out and completed, but you will have the insight to look into the career plans of your students. So what are the career plans that they're saving? What are some of the post-secondary plans that they've put together? What are their goals? And really allowing you to have insight into all of that. So when it comes to the educator side within Xello, really just a lot simpler to use, a lot more intuitive, not having to click through a number of different screens to ultimately get to what you're looking to find. It's just much cleaner. Now, I did want to make sure that I was able to save some time for questions, and I know we've probably got about 15 minutes left. So I think for today, I will likely leave it there and sort of end by saying that this is something we are continuing to build out and to finalize over the next few months. So there are still some small details that will be added in and things that will be tweaked over the spring and summer. But the official launch date, we've been told, has been sort of an August-September timeline when districts and students and educators can start to use Xello. But again, just to reiterate, career cruising as it stands is not going anywhere. Our plan is really to launch both programs side by side and to really give districts the opportunity to use whichever product is going to be the best fit for their needs. But very excited to be able to share this with everyone today. Like I said, I think you're the first group in the state to see it, so that's fantastic. I'm happy that I've been able to share that with you today. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and we can discuss those, or you can always type them in the chat box. Okay, I don't see anything particular coming in right now. Oh, I'm seeing a message come in from Lori, as well as some of the questions from the group that are all together around pricing and if there's an additional cost for Xello. So we can definitely talk about that. The pricing structure for Xello is different from the Career Cruising Springboard. For any of the districts that are currently on our full solution, so using our course planner, our data integration, and are paying a little bit differently, the cost for Xello will be the same as the existing full solution within Career Cruising. So if you currently have that full program, the cost does not change. If you are a Springboard user of Career Cruising and you're using sort of our base platform, then the cost will be different, similar to what we've already been offering our full solution clients in Career Cruising. To give you a brief outline of what that is, it's a per student cost. At the high school level, it's $3 per student, so we would work based on your enrollment numbers, and at the middle school level, it's $2 per student. And I see a great note coming in from Kelly just saying thank you for reducing the reading level to 5th grade, just saying that your students will really benefit from that. So we always appreciate that positive feedback. Again, really just making sure that the reasoning for that was that we could make sure that the program is as accessible as possible to as many students as we can, and really going to be beneficial for different groups of students. Getting another question of, have we tested this with students and what was the response? Yes, we have tested it with a number of groups of students, and we continue to test it with students as we go through and make final tweaks and changes. And the response has been overwhelmingly positive. What the feedback that we've got from students is that it's something that they actually want to go back and complete, versus the career cruising that they're using now is often something that they are guided into. So, you know, a counselor or a teacher will say, you know, it's time to go into career cruising once or twice a year. A student will go in, and it's a very passive experience. They're kind of going in, checking off boxes, doing what they got to do, and logging out, versus with Xello, because it was designed with the student in mind, the feedback that we've got from the students who have used it is that they really enjoyed it, that they wanted to go back in on their own, you know, from their iPhone, from their home computer, and really start to add more stuff, play with the storyboard, and really kind of get more involved with it. So far it's been very, very positive. Okay, so I don't see any more questions coming in, but what we can do, I know that we've looked at quite a bit today. It's often quite a bit of information to digest. If there are questions that occur after and you do want to ask them, I'm very happy to have my information shared. Liz can share my info with the group, and you can feel free to email me directly, or you can always send those questions to Liz, and we can sort of put them together in one document, and we can provide answers and send them out to the group. I have got one last question. Are there things that the career cruising package sort of includes that Xello does not? I think the quick answer to that is no. Really what we've done in Xello is we have taken all of the best parts of career cruising and built on that and gone into more detail and really sort of dived in and expanded our offering. So there's nothing major that has been removed that you would have access to now that you wouldn't in Xello. In terms of the way students experience it and tiny details in the program, there are things that may have changed or outcomes that you may achieve a little bit differently within Xello than in career cruising, so the process might change a little bit, but ultimately the outcomes are the same and I would say improved, much improved. Can students access Xello after high school? So my understanding of this question, and I will confirm it for you as we're still finalizing, but my understanding is yes, they can. And the answer would be exactly the same as with our current career cruising. So if students are, or I should say, if a district is continuing to maintain an active Xello license, then students will be able to log in after graduation and continue to view and work on their profile. If the district were to cease with their license with career cruising, then those students would no longer be able to view what's in Xello. Okay, so that looks like it was the last question that came in. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining me today. We have recorded today's session, so for anyone that wasn't able to join us or would like to revisit any of this information at a later date, I will share the recording with Liz again, so you have something on hand. And if there are any additional questions afterwards, please do feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, it was a pleasure being able to share this with everyone today, and I look forward to chatting with the group again. I hope everyone has a great day. Bye-bye.